Hello there, boys and girls, and welcome to It's a Shaw Thing. Hope you enjoyed a good weekend in fantasy football. That's what we're here to discuss today. Lesson learned, perhaps, was do your homework on Sunday morning. Some people started Steven Jackson just to find he was inactive. Others benched Anquan Boldin, fearing he would not play, just to see him put up 2 touchdowns. Well, it's also important to know some of the trends in the NFL, and that's what I'm here to discuss. We're going to talk about who's moving on up and who's moving down when it comes to fantasy value. We'll start off at the quarterback position, and this might surprise you. Moving on up, Chad Pennington. He's thrown for greater than 220 passing yards in all but one game so far. 7 games played, 7 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. So why is he having so much success? Well, it's easy. Look at the team. As far as playmakers, he's got 2 very good ones. Greg Camarillo's been one of the more consistent options for the Dolphins. And then that Ted Ginn Jr. with over 170 receiving yards showed us the same ability to really just put up huge numbers as Santana Moss. Now it's just a matter of him being consistent, something that actually has plagued Santana Moss. All right, next up, you need a big guy, a safety valve in the middle, and that's exactly what former Cowboy Anthony Fasano's been. He had another touchdown this weekend. He's been really solid at the tight end position. And then you also need some balance in the offense, and the running backs have certainly helped the cause there. Ricky Williams and Ronnie Brown have had their moments. Chad Pennington, a decent fantasy option these days. Might be surprising, but there's a great deal of improvement in Chad Pennington, finally healthy. As far as a quarterback who's moving in the wrong direction, J.T. O'Sullivan for the San Francisco 49ers appears to have lost the job, albeit not in the same public sentimental way as Vernon Davis. So what happens now? Well, Sean Hill came in, went 15 of 23, threw a touchdown for the Niners. Not all that surprising considering his success last year, but he had 5 touchdowns and just 1 interception to conclude the season. My guess is Sean Hill from here on out wins the job and will start. And that being said, J.T. O'Sullivan loses all fantasy value, so feel free to drop him, pick up Hill, or maybe again, Chad Pennington. Now let's talk about some of the running backs in the NFL. First, those moving on up. Leon Washington of the New York Jets with over 100 total yards this past weekend, a touchdown receiving, a touchdown rushing. This guy is a playmaker. Hopefully now, Brett Favre saw what he has to play with. This guy's got all the talents in the world, all the speed in the world. He's actually a small guy, reminds me of Maurice Jones-Drew. They just have to find ways to use him, and my guess is now on they will. So in the event that they do, he's a guy you certainly want to start. Maybe not right now. Maybe see how they respond after that big win against the Chiefs. As far as a running back moving in the wrong direction, well, Julius Jones was great a couple of weeks ago, but then Maurice Morris returned, and now once again he's getting more carries than Jones. Jones with just 6 carries for 9 yards this past weekend. Maurice Morris, on the other hand, getting 11 carries. And then out of nowhere, Leonard Weaver ended up with a couple of receptions for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Things are looking better in Seattle, but just not for Julius Jones. You might want to consider dropping him. And finally, we're discussing wide receivers, and usually wide receivers flourish in St. Louis, but Torrey Holt having an awful year, but apparently it's not contagious because that rookie Donnie Avery's having an excellent season. The rookie from Houston has now had 3 consecutive games of over 55 yards, his second game with a touchdown, and it wasn't just a good game, it was over 160 yards for this guy. He is starting to look good, and most importantly, his quarterback's getting comfortable. Mark Bolger, once one of the elite quarterbacks in the league, is just threw for over 300 passing yards after having an awful start to the year. Of course, last year he suffered a concussion, only had 11 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. There's still issues with the offensive line with the Rams, but at the same time, it's good to see some of the playmakers finally getting the ball in their hands and finally doing something about it. All right, finally, a player who's moving in the wrong direction at the wide receiver spot. Matt Jones. This guy actually had a great performance, 117 yards, a touchdown, having one of the best seasons so far of his career. And this was a guy that was much heralded coming out of Arkansas, but he had that big arrest this offseason involving drugs and is suspended for the next 3 games. So Matt Jones will have absolutely no value whatsoever the next 3 games of the season. If you're looking for someone to replace him, Reggie Williams actually also scored a touchdown for the Jaguars this weekend. He's a guy who had an excellent season last year. Matt Jones did take over his spot up to now for the next 3 games. You might want to keep Jones in your roster. He will eventually return and his value will go up, but for now there is absolutely none as he is expected to be suspended the next 3 games of the season. Well, my friends, that's It's a Shaw Thing for now. We'll talk plenty more fantasy football. Also check out our college football where we discuss some of the up-and-coming teams, including the Texas Tech Raiders. Keep an eye on this team. They look very good. The Red Raiders taking on Texas this weekend. You can check out, again, college football at opensports.com. Until we meet again, my friends, have an excellent day.
So you think you can tackle a pro? There's only one way to find out. Click on fantasy at opensports.com.